Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. We're going to give it a minute for everybody to stream in. But if you're here for 10 things your manufacturing business needs to know about government contracting, you're in the right place. So we'll give it like another minute or two. I know we also have some other panelists that are joining.
Well, Leo's there too.
Mhm.
Leo,
Okay,
can
good
you
morning,
change your
everyone.
name, the name instead of Eli to yours, please?
Mhm,
Right click on the corner. Everyone's using my link.
mhm. It's good. There's a lot of Eli's.
Yeah, right.
That's a good thing. More Eli's is a good thing. So we'll go ahead and get started, guys. I know folks are going to be streaming in. My name is Brian Van Hook, and I'm the Regional Director of the Small Business Development Center at FIU. We're very proud to present this today with Brickell Capital Finance. You're going to hear more about them as we get into the intros. But the webinar today is 10 things your manufacturing business needs to know about government contracting. And we're going to save some time for questions and answers. So I would encourage you to put in the chat who you are, more about your business, and then also put, if you have any questions for the panel, please put them in the Q&A section. Okay. Okay. Just quick about me. I'm Brian Van Hook. As I mentioned, we're old friends. Originally from Louisiana. Spent 20 years of time served in Washington, D.C., both on the federal government side as well as on the congressional side in the U.S. Senate. So I have experience in terms of federal agencies, in terms of procurement, in terms of government contracting, how kind of like Washington works and how the federal side works. I've been with our center for about 12 years. We're funded through a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Small Business Administration, and we're under the Florida SBDC network. We are part of the Florida SBDC network. Like I mentioned, there's 9 SBDCs around Florida. So if you're not in Miami-Dade or Monroe County, that's okay. We're not going to kick you out. There are other SBDCs around the state. They're really good. And so my colleague Jesus Padilla, that a lot of you guys know, he can connect you to those other centers as well. And then we focus on one-on-one business consulting. So we can help you start your business, we can help you grow your business, and we can also basically help you in terms of basically a lot of like market growth. So government contracting, international trade, access to capital. We obviously do trainings like we have today. So we have a lot of other resources we can assist you with. This just shows you our deliverables for the topic at hand today. We have about 400 million in government contracts secured as of the end of last year. So would basically like highlight that in terms of our team, that the great work they've done for clients. And then we're also partnered with the Florida Apex Accelerator. Used to be called the PTAC program. You guys will hear from Luis Batista on our team. Luis is part of the Apex Accelerator program. And that basically is funded through a cooperative agreement with the Department of Defense. And similar to SBDC, it's focused on consulting, training, and information, but it's focused on Department of Defense contracts, federal, state, and local prime contractors. This is our SBDC at FIU team that's based here in Miami-Dade. They're all business specialists, so they're all specialists in different areas. And also, we have our team in the Florida Keys. So you see basically Nancy and Bonnie that are based in the Keys. So we go all the way down to Key West. And then I'll turn it over to my colleague Eli with Brickell Capital Finance. Talk about
Brian, thank you and SBDC. Highly recommend you guys. My name is Eli Mullen, CEO of Brickell Capital Finance. We are direct lenders and have partnerships across with all types of financing. We've been open 20 years. We have over 900 brokers and about 35,000 clients under our portfolio. I also am the chair for the Better Business Bureau. I just went from the treasurer to the chair this year, so been in the Better Business Bureau as a chair for 1 year already. And we also belong to the University of Miami Angel Investors, so we do invest in small companies as well. and we're certified National Minority Supplier Development Council as well. We help them out to try to get funding for them as well. Next, next slide. Hello, Brian.
Yeah, it's okay. Sorry, I'm like
Next.
trying to next slide.
Yep.
Okay.
And here are strategic partnerships. Obviously, Better Business Bureau, South Florida in the Caribbean, SBDC at FIU, and the Kane Angel Investment Network. That we really go ahead and have strategical partnerships, and we try to have events with them and everything else like that. Next, Brian. And then all of our, and there's much more than this, but these are some of our community partners that we do all the access to capital seminars. Miami-Dade, City of Miami, Broward County, City of Hialeah, and it just goes on and on and on and on. We have a really good consulting approach. We don't charge anything. We just want all of businesses to go ahead and succeed and give access to capital to all of the clients out there, and especially the small to medium-sized companies, and have them grow their companies. Next. And here are some of our financing solutions for manufacturers. Obviously, SBA loans. What's unique about us is that we pre-underwrite the SBA. So if there's any needs to go ahead and make any adjustments to them, we have in-house underwriters that understand what needs to be done in order to provide an SBA loan. We also do term loans, equipment leasing, all sorts of factoring and contract financing. And we also have the possibility of becoming equity partners as well. And then on the right hand, these on the left hand side are more of term loans, monthly payments, and everything. And then on the right hand side, we have unsecured business lines of credit, AR lines of credit, supply chain line of credit, and we've got a new home equity line of credit for businesses. That's probably our newest product, and it's based on if the business owner has equity on their house. The difference is between us and going to the bank's going to request you to have a 680 credit score or more, us 650. And the bigger part of it is that we underwrite with bank statements versus your personal taxes. And that way it will achieve you to get more of a line. And then we go up to 80% of the value that you have on the line, and they are SBA rates. So, the good thing about us is that we help you get the financing and pick and choose the finance products and be able to have multiple streams of financing instead of just having one.
Mhm.
Next. Any questions, Joel, at the end?
Yeah, we'll save the questions at the end. That was a good rundown. And then we'll get into it. So as you guys know, basically government contracting, a lot of the presentations, they just talk about like how to get the contracts, what to do. We really want to cover like a comprehensive focus today with those 10 kind of key insights. And one of those is finance. So that's why it's so important to be with Brickell Capital Finance today, because they're going to really give you like some of the financing and access to capital background on it. In terms of the webinar, we're going to give you like 10 key insights on government contracting, whether you're getting into for the first time, whether you're basically trying to get in for some of the like additional contracts. We're going to let you review like the different sides of the different levels of government contracts. We're going to outline what leads to success in government contracting, to talk about your financing while you're waiting government payment. And then we're also gonna talk about some of those contracting opportunities and who you should look for. I want to shout out some of our team that just got in: Ray Juncosa from SBDC, Luis Batista from Apex, Neri from Apex. So we kind of have like the cavalry coming in terms of the panel. So I just want to shout those guys out. And I'm gonna kind of go through some of the slides, but we have such a rock star panel. We're gonna basically open it up to the panel. So you guys don't be shy. Just put your hand up or kind of chime in whenever we get to something you want to talk about. And then I did kind of like tell you guys it's 10 things just to show you I'm not joking. Here's the 10 things we're going to cover today. Going from why to get into government contracting, financing, all the way down to the secret to success. And we're going to save that to the end. So you guys do have to stay. So it's kind of like where you go to dinner and then basically you get the ice cream at the end. So we will give you the ice cream at the end. You have to get through kind of the main course, some of the veggies, to kind of get the final tips. I would encourage you in the chat, basically put in the chat who you are, and then obviously use the Q&A function if you have any questions for the panel. And then first off, most importantly, like why you get into government contracting. You basically a lot of businesses you're already successful without getting a single government contract. So why should you get into government contracting? Basically, the federal, state, and local government, they have their own employees, but they don't make anything. So if you're talking about tanks, like software, pencils, event planning, services, healthcare, they need businesses like you to basically help them to fulfill their mission. So what they do is they enter into contracts in terms of with outside companies and groups for a variety of services and products. It's billions of dollars, trillions of dollars in it. So then the key question for you is, are government agencies, are they buying what you're selling? So the first important thing is you need to ask, is the government contracting the right path for you? Doing business to government, it can be expensive and there's strong competition depending on what your product or service is. So let's cover some key questions that you should like ask yourself. What if you win the contract? You know, do the parade, do the streamers, do everything else. If you lose the contract, you don't want to basically like put all your eggs in one basket, where if you lose that one contract, you're gonna like, hurt your business. You need to be able to find the right opportunity that you can afford to win or lose that doesn't derail your company. I'm going to channel kind of like the gambler song right now. You got to know when to hold them, when to fold them, and when to walk away. So you got to be able to walk away right up until the proposal due date. And then you also have to build a strategy with your particular business in terms of what does this contract build towards your business. And then some of the things that you look at is what is your niche? What is your target market? What's your past performance? We'll get into that later. Your past experience, your geographical focus, and then some of the different socioeconomic, small business sides, some of those type of things. So you want to think about what the contracts are going to get you, not what they're going to, and also think about what they're going to cost you. So anybody from the panel, anybody want to chime in on that? Anything I missed?
There are so many opportunities, right? Um, Here we're going to talk a lot about federal government contracting, as well as what we termed what we call SLED, state, local, and educational. Just think about Miami-Dade County. Miami-Dade County has 35 cities,
Mhm.
right? They're buying what you're selling, unless you're selling something really weird. And there's different ways of reaching out to these folks. A method I like to use is reach out to their director. Every single city, every single township, every single county, they're all going to have procurement directors, and ask them, hey, who in your department handles my product or service? That way you
Mhm.
get an introduction kind of from the leadership, and they'll tell you right away, we buy this, how we buy it, or don't. But there's opportunities for companies of every size, but it does take a lot of extra effort.
Mhm. Definitely. Thanks, Louis. Okay, so we're going to be a little bit different today, guys. Most of the contracting presentations, it talks about certifications, capability statements, it talks about targeting. So we're going to get into financing. Ray, hold your comment for a minute because you're going to have a lot to say in this section. Um, what we want to change it up today is we want to talk about financing. So for us, we have Ray here, we have Eli, we have his team. We want to talk about basically financing because simply put, government contracting can make you a lot of money, but it is the government. So you need to have that capacity and experience to handle the contracts, but also that financial foundation to do the work and maintain operations until you receive payment. Like Lewis is my witness, Neri, some of the other folks on the panel, like net 60, net 90, net 30. Those are basically days you're basically working and then you're waiting to get paid. Sometimes your invoice has like a typo, so then you have to change it. So you basically need to focus on how you can keep your business running while you're waiting to get paid. And Ray, you had something before I get into it?
Yeah, since we were getting into financing, and then I also wanted to kind of reach out also to Lewis on this issue. I get this a lot as an access to capital consultant for the center. Number one, when you make this presentation and you talk about government contract, I always think of the many businesses that I have dealt with, that I've known, that I've had very some of them that had not done well with, let's say, the Walmart scenario, where they they're able to capture this very large contract, right? And then they don't think that Walmart's going to take, maybe 90 days to pay you, and in the meantime, what are you doing? So I wanted, to see if maybe, Louis, you can elaborate a little bit on that. And then the other issue is, you cannot forget that at the end of the day, as Brian was mentioning, you need to demonstrate liquidity, you need to demonstrate the ability to take on this obligation, in a sense, because remember, you're going to have to go, whatever you're selling to the government, you're going to have to go out and buy and purchase, right? And then you're going to have to sit and wait till the government pays you. And the other thing that always concerns me is that people think that sometimes they'll get these certifications, like minority woman, or minority business, and I don't know, Louis, how much weight does all of that have in the final decision from the government to extend to you a contract? Who weighs more, your financial ability, the certification, which really pushes through the finish line, is what I want to mention. Because at the end of the day, being on the finance side, for me, it's always about the numbers, right? If you have the liquidity, you have the ability to repay, to purchase and wait for the government to pay you, then you're going to be okay. But if not, you're getting yourself into a quagmire.
The government separates 23% of their spend for those categories: women-owned small business, service disabled, hub zone, 8A, and 8A allows for direct awards up to $4 million, $7 million in construction. So these certifications are extremely powerful. Now, as far as the financing goes, the issue with a lot of subcontracts, to which is the low-hanging fruit kind of best practices to approach federal government contracting, or any government contracting really, is this: that you're mostly agreeing to be paid as paid. In other words, you don't get paid until the prime gets paid, which adds a whole other layer, right? If it was already net 30, if they messed up their invoicing, or some inspection got held up, that's gonna delay everything. So keep those things in mind. Yeah.
Ray and Lucas,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What we're seeing a lot of in the finance world
Right.
is that they get awarded the contract and they haven't pre-established the financing. So we usually encourage them to either talk to SBDC or us first in order to, preempt if they win that contract. Because right once they win that contract, they're struggling to figure out how they're going to go ahead and get it funded, because it's just way too much for them to go ahead and do. So I encourage everybody just to at least have a talk with us to pre-plan for that financing.
I couldn't agree more with what you said, Elias. This is precisely why I made the comment that they need to realize that they have to have that backing. Even Lewis just mentioned now, is something as simple as a mistake on an invoicing or whatever that may delay your payment. Some companies may be in a situation that they won't be able to buy that time, and then
Yep.
it could create some serious problems for them.
I
I
just
always
think they
say,
should be, Ray, I think they should just be like well prepared, beforehand, and just talk to us. So I mean, we've worked together for a lot of years, so
Right.
that we prepare them and get them ready in order for them to go out and get those contracts,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
So
you
a
guys
lot
teed
of
it
the
up.
time that I feel, that they go out and get this contract and they don't have everything established, and then they're struggling to find a way to get that funded. And even with us, it takes us, a week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, and they're in a hurry, and they just
Exactly.
put us under the gun instead of just, hey, let's put that in place first, and then move along with it. So
I often compare that to the Walmart situation where Walmart's taking over a lot of small businesses simply because they gave them these large contracts and they were not able to continue because they couldn't sit and wait till
yeah,
Walmart paid them, and then and there was their history, right?
yeah,
So I
we're
mean, you have to
Yeah.
be careful on the financing side. And then I also wanted to ask that question to Louis on the certifications because
Mhm.
some clients, when they come to SBDC, they think that automatically they will get the contract simply by these certifications, Louis. And I think,
Yeah, save that one, Lewis, because we are going to get into that part. You
yeah,
guys teed it up really well because we are going to talk real quick about some of the financing options. So you guys teed up the importance of structuring that beforehand, not kind of waiting until you get the contract in hand. So I do want to talk about surety bonds, basically bonding, mostly on the construction side, but surety bonds is basically used by folks on the construction side to avoid those disruptions or financial loss. Construction bond is also called a construction surety bond or contract bond. Um, but I know that they have a couple different types. So in types of bonds, there's basically bid bonds, performance bonds, payment bonds, supplyment bonds, maintenance, and subdivision. So those are a couple different routes you can go. They do have an SBA surety bond program that it has a lot of really good information. We actually did put that in the kind of the links at the end. Ray, kind of Eli, do you guys want to talk about bonding before I move on to like more traditional financing?
One quick
right. You can take
statement
the
from me.
bonding. Oh,
One
okay,
quick
or
statement from me,
Lewis, someone, yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Um, Bonding is very important.
very
It
important.
also allows you to get established teaming agreements because a lot of companies will not have the bonding. If you have the bonding, that gives you a real big differentiator. That's my comment on it.
Yeah, I was going to say, Louis, and I'm glad you mentioned it. I'm going to get to that because these bid bonds, performance bond, it's almost think of this as like a standby letter of credit, which is a contingent
Mhm.
liability. Simply, they want to make sure that if something goes wrong, that they have, and that's why if you don't have that kind, again, that kind of financial backing, you like you said, you're not as appealing, right, to the government if you don't have that before you. Isn't that right, Louis? If you don't
Mhm.
have a bid, a performance bond to be able to say, okay, if something goes wrong, we have that, you guys have that to fall on. Obviously, you're not going to be, in my opinion, as
Oh,
appealing.
you're not just gonna be not appealing. You're not gonna be considered.
No,
There you go.
Mhm.
it's
Thank
a
you.
requirement. Hi, team. How are you?
Yeah,
Thank you. Hey,
so
Matt.
Matt, so hey Matt, welcome
I
to the
just want to let
panel.
everybody know. Well, bonding is the first thing that contractors should know is that applying for bonding is free. It's not going to cost you any money. A lot of people think they stay away from it because they think it's like insurance, where you're going to be paying a month to month. Think of it more like a credit card. If you get it, you don't have to pay a month to month or anything for it. It's just you use it when you need it. Okay. So don't let like the cost of it be like a deterrent of you going to check if you're available for bonding or not. All right.
Mm.
And as Lewis said, if the government job requires bonding, that's non-negotiable. You need to be able to have a bond to be able to bid as a prime on the job.
Mhm.
Subcontractor, that varies, depends on what the prime wants. But if the government's asking for a bond, you need a bond or you're not going to be considered for the job.
You're not going to be
Yeah, and that goes
considered.
back to like reading the solicitation, reading all the information. In terms of pre-qualifications, they basically look at a couple things. Financial analysis is very important, like Ray and them were saying. Your capacity, your organization, references, credit history, your banking relationships. So it is all intertwined on the bonding side. Anything else on bonding, guys, before we move on to other financing?
I mean, this is guys, it's not just government contracting. You see this whole these bid bonds. You see a lot of standby letters of credit. You need in big projects and stuff.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
like it's part of the structure. So I mean, again, if you want to get into government contracting, you have to realize, you need a reality check from a financial perspective. What you need to be able to qualify to get you to the finish line. So anyway,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. And then we're going to get into bankables. I know this is close to Eli's heart and Ray's heart. So we're going to talk about the 5 C's. We're going to talk about some of the other stuff.
This looks
Um,
like a very familiar slide, by the
yeah,
way.
it's like
I wonder
you've
where
seen
you
this
got it.
before. I'm
I
channeling
wonder.
Ray Jankosa.
Very, very
So
familiar slide.
yeah. So
Ray,
I
I
would
think I've seen it a few times, Ray.
yeah. So that's good. That's good. I have some experience with it. As we talked about past performance. So in terms of the small business financing, there's a couple different ways you could come at it. Obviously, most businesses bootstrap. There's less and less small business grants out there. There's mission-based lenders like CDFIs, SBA microloans and loans. Your friends and family, if you're doing kind of investment, commercial loans, crowdfunding, peer-to-peer, angel investors, and venture capital. But you could hop on and hop off in terms of financing. One of the biggest things we see for government contracting companies is that struggle, like was mentioned a lot at the beginning, where they get a contract, but they don't have the financing to basically like weather from when they do the job till they get funded or get paid. So, anything you guys want to talk about in terms of these types of financing or anything, Ray or Eli?
Okay, well,
I'll let you
bootstrapping
take
is
it first,
bootstrapping
Ray.
is clear, right? Bootstrapping, that's
Mhm.
your own money, right? Small business grants, I'm not, that's not my um, pet peeve or my specialty. I mean, you guys are more familiar with grants. I think grants, quite frankly, people they have this notion that I think incorrectly that it's free money and that you really don't have to work to get it. And the other thing is that the amounts of grant I have not never seen, and maybe you can help me, Brian. I think Jesus is on. I haven't seen very large grants at all since I've been with the center for so many years. Uh, the mission-based lenders is, would you consider Bayside and Ascendus as one of those,
Yeah,
Brian?
Ascendus, Community
Yeah,
Fund of North
uh,
Miami-Dade.
yeah. And the problem with
Um,
those is some of them are not getting funding right now. Maybe you
yeah,
can talk a little bit about that.
yeah,
And the same
And,
goes for
and their
the,
amounts are like 25,000 or less than 50,000. I've never seen anybody go
yeah.
over those amounts as well. So
yeah. And Eli, do you guys want to talk about in terms of the type of financing that you guys offer for
There you
government
go. Yeah.
contractors?
yeah, we have all types of all types of funding under one umbrella. So what's really interesting about us, like I said before, we just try to really pick and choose what products we can actually give our clients. So normally, here's what one of the differences are is that internally we can give an SBA loan, a line of credit, and then if they need an unsecured line of credit, a home equity line of credit. So we can pick and choose to try to maximize the amount of funding we can give clients. We also have a specialty program for contractors and subcontractors that we've got 5 different products for them, which is AR financing. We could also do contract financing. We could do payroll financing. We could do equipment leasing for them. We can also give them an unsecured line of credit. So it's multiple products that most banks or other institutions won't have. And that helps out the clients in regards to maximizing their ability when they do get these contracts to have the maximum amounts of money there. So pretty much since we've been open for a long time, we understand what the needs are for most of the clients out there and where we can go ahead and really achieve and help the client put the structures together in reference to capitalize on their companies and get them as much money as possible.
Mhm.
So and one thing that Ray and I have and Brian always discusses, these merchant cash advances are killing everybody.
Oh, yeah. Well,
So we're trying to get them out of the merchant cash advances with other products and put them in a particular place that they could be successful and they don't have to take any more merchant cash advances. So
Mhm.
we've got a
yeah.
couple of tricks up our sleeves that we can try to alleviate that as much as possible.
Yeah, those merchant cash advances are putting a lot of small businesses out of business, period. It's
Mhm.
a and it's like a drug, once they use it and then well, the reason why the SBA has prohibited them and actually traditional lenders now as well is simply because the client gets, this remedy for it and then all of a sudden goes out and uses it again.
Yep.
And
And they
so
don't use it, Ray. Sorry, you know that they don't use it just one time in Brian. They'll take one, two, and three. You know, they'll take the first one to they'll take the second one to pay the first one, the third one to pay the second one, and it's a house of cards. So
Mhm.
we really try to educate them when we get them that if we do get them out, please don't do that again. You know, if
Yeah.
they need extra capital, come back to us or SBDC, Ray, Brian, and your staff in order to get, them out of those problems because we see that on a consistent base.
Mhm.
So
Definitely. So that's great feedback. And I would just mention as the slide notes, you could hop on and hop off in terms of different types of financing. Definitely check with SBDC or another organization in terms of the right financing for your business. Definitely depends on the stage of your business, your industry, your business structure, kind of what you need the capital for, and then other things like your credit history, your small business finances, those type of things. So definitely on the financing side, we definitely wanted to beef it up because we haven't seen a lot of different presentations on government contracting, focusing specifically on the finance side. So now we're going to get into traditional side more for like Lewis and Matt. So you guys are like on deck for this one. So I want to thank Ray and Eli. If you guys want to chime in on some of the other topics too, definitely don't be shy. So I want to talk about targeting. Targeting is basically where you're looking for key agencies, procurement contacts, RFP workshops, vendor outreach events. You're basically trying to like work smarter, not harder. So you're basically looking at what are the particular solicitations or opportunities that I need to be looking at that's really going to help my business. Otherwise, you're like drowning in a sea of opportunities and RFPs and solicitations. In terms of targeting, one of the most important things is looking at like contracting officers. These are the folks that are making those buying decisions. They're super busy. They have a huge workload. They don't have time to spare. So you want to research the different types of contracting methods or vehicles that each contracting officer uses. You want to definitely do your research on past or open solicitations and then identify those key contracting officers or the opportunities that you're interested in. Lewis or Matt, anything on contracting officers?
Louis,
That kind of
It's really a great idea to reach out directly to the COs unless you're asking a question. Even when you're asking a question on the solicitation, realize that they need to respond to that question to everybody. So every question you
Mhm.
ask will generate an addendum. They'll
Mhm.
not respond to every single question. They'll collect those questions and respond via addendum. So keep that in mind.
yes, a lot
Mhm.
of contractors, like when they come to the KO, they feel like they don't get personalized attention. And I always tell my clients, like, you're not going to get personalized attention. This is for the
Mhm.
contract itself. So if
Mhm.
you're asking a question to them and they come back with a general answer for everybody, it's going to be inside the website. It generally won't be back to your email saying, "Hey
Mhm.
Matt, we heard your question. This, and it's not going to be that way. It's going to be for everybody because that keeps the competition fair among everybody. Like nobody should be able to get more information than is available to the other people bidding on the job. So if you
Mhm.
get an answer like that, don't take it personal. It's just their job. It's the way they do things.
Yeah, and
Now,
we'll
now,
talk about like outreach events too, because an example is like we had an event in Key West with NOAA, and kind of like the weather service and some of the other folks, and you're actually able to talk with like contracting officers, like program staff. So it's really, really like good use of people's time to be able to talk to them about different opportunities, even things that are like not out on the street yet. So that was like that's really good advice. But I'm sorry, Luis, I cut you off.
and final point on that on the local side, it's a very different matter. You have small cities like Homestead, just
Hmm.
south of me, and they have six contracting persons there, and they have a procurement director. At that level, local buyers, they're not called contracting, they're called buyers, buyer one, buyer two, and they'll either be by category. So it's different with it with government, federal contracting, and their COs. They really not going to be communicating with you much. Locally, it's a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Definitely. And then, as we mentioned here, program staff, kind of end users. I worked at the Department of Commerce, so I was like an end user. I was basically somebody that would be out at different events, and people could ask me like, "Hey, what software? What are you guys doing, or what are big things?" So these are things that it's not kind of inside information. It's just stuff that you're at like public events, and you can kind of talk to folks, but you can understand like, what are the problems? What could be a value to the solution you're offering? like different sources of information. So it can kind of help you like understand things outside of like a solicitation or like something that's like everybody else is already familiar with. So that,
Ask questions.
yeah.
Ask questions. Going up and telling them, hey, I'm a GC or I'm in IT. Okay, no. What questions do you need to know? What are they
Mhm.
working on? What do you ask them? What do I need to know to work with your agency?
Mhm.
Contact persons. Ask questions.
Definitely. And
That's
And
then,
very important when you do speak with them. Let them know exactly what you do, exactly your kind of work. If you do roofing, tell them you're a roofer. Don't try to get it too broad because they might have something for you, but since you're not telling them, they might have some information for you, but since you're not being specific on what you do, they can't guess and give it to you. So be very specific on what kind of work you can offer the government.
and that's super helpful, Matt, because we're going to get into like your elevator pitch and those type of things too. So you're like already ahead of the game.
I kept telling
Brian,
people come to me like, "What do you do? Government contracting." All right.
Mhm. Yeah.
and right now, I was over at Broward County. There's more contracts available out there that you guys just got to engage. So the reason that they usually have me in there is because we do all their financing for all
Mhm.
the guys that are trying to get these contracts. But right now, there's a real need, especially in that subcontracting, contracting space, and or everything else. There's just enormous amounts, and that's only like Broward County, but I'm sure Miami-Dade and the rest of them that we speak to as well. They just, right now it's a good time to go ahead and engage on those contracts. So,
Yeah.
and they're going to listen to you now because they really need you, or the contractor or sub or the manufacturer or whatever products you're servicing with them. It's really needed right now. So,
Mhm. Yeah, and like it says on the slide, basically they're not sitting behind a desk. They're doing a lot more outreach. They're trying to get new vendors. So you should only attend those events if you're ready to do the proper preparation beforehand and do the follow-up after, because otherwise you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
In terms of the different levels of government contracting, so we're going to cover this. As you guys know, government contracting is basically like federal, state, county, and city. One level might not be more profitable than the other. It just depends on the agencies and kind of what you're working on, like what is your product or service. The federal government has huge contracts for defense, and these are great for defense contractors, but a county or a city government might have one for like, potable water or like different types of services. So it's just a questions. A lot of people here in Miami-Dade County, they're very successful. They just work with like City of Doral, City of Miami, Miami-Dade County. They don't even need to get to the federal side. We've actually had clients that have been very successful on the federal side, but then they shifted back down towards the local side, and that's still profitable for them. There has been some uncertainty with the federal government the last couple of years. So at the end of the day, it's kind of like whatever your product or service is and what they're buying, but also kind of like in terms of what your game plan is for your particular business. Um, so the
And
general recommendation is to register at all levels of government, since it's impossible to know like where the best project is for your firm. It's going to be advertised. Go ahead, Louis.
here's the difference, right? If you're building missiles, you're not going to sell that to the county or the city. That's
Definitely.
federal. That's kind of a given.
Unless there's something really weird going on. Other than that, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like missiles against like algae or something, or like
Yeah.
seaweed. Um,
Doral goes to war with Hialeah.
Yeah. But in terms of the federal government, it's obviously the largest buyer in the US. They buy everything from like pencils, construction, manufacturing, logistics. There's 15 federal executive departments that are like led by cabinet secretaries, but there's about 438 agencies and sub-agencies within the federal government. As we talked about, basically the federal government, they have annual prime contracting goals for small businesses, also set asides, and then there's also for the primes, there's set aside subcontracting goals for them. Kind of like some of the core certifications they have is for service disabled veteran, hub zone, women owned, small disadvantage. We're going to get into the certifications a little more detail later on, but I did want to mention about that. Anything, Lewis, on the certification side on the federal side?
They're all advantageous, but in different ways. And they all have their own challenges as well.
Yeah. And I would mention for the federal government, we talked about it previously. You need to really figure out how do they buy? When do they buy? One of the things that a lot of businesses have been successful is micro purchases, where that's like anywhere between $1 to 15,000. You think that that's a lot of work, but actually, if you get a bunch of contracts, you can sell stuff and just kind of work under those micro purchase thresholds. They have other ways that they do it as well through GSA, IDIQ, fixed price contracts, credit card purchases. Although I do know the federal government, they've kind of cut back a lot of the credit cards where they'll have a credit card but only has $1 on it or something. So I think that that's been curtailed a little bit. But like there, what we say that there is different types of ways that different agencies purchase things. And so it really is figuring out, like we've been stressing, what is your product or service? Is there a market for it? And then kind of how do they buy it? When do they buy it? And then the big thing to know on the federal government contracting side is sam.gov is where you register. If you have your SAM registration, your cage code, that doesn't mean you're registered for like state, county, cities. Registrations are free. I know Lewis and Matt always chime in. There are people out there that are going to charge you for this. This is something you can do on your own. You can take advantage of groups like SBDC and Apex. So you want to kind of be mindful of that. Anything on Sam, Lewis?
Only that they're incorporating other programs into it. It's a 10-year program. The last thing to be incorporated is fpds.gov. It's a research website that's been around for decades. It's now incorporated within SAM, but with many more modern features. So you'll be able to use SAM now for some real research versus before it was questionable for research.
Yeah, you'd have to go to like a bunch of different sites and things like that.
And do keep in mind that it's a two-step process. When your address is verified, you get a unique entity identifier, a UEI number. But that your registration is not complete until you have a cage code. Please keep that in mind. If you need assistance, please contact us.
Good tip. Ray, you got something?
Yeah, I wanted to ask both Matt and Lewis, what is the more repetitious challenge that you guys come across when people are referred to you for government contracting? What is typically that issue that they can't seem to get to the finish line on? Or is it several different areas? What is it?
I want to see what Luis says first.
Matt, I know you got a lot to say about that, but let me just state it with this. Unless we know what their end goal is, you can't even begin a roadmap. All yours, Matt.
Exactly. That's the big one. The first thing is define your services. What are you going to do? Most of the times, like I have people like, I just want to work with the government. I'm like, yeah, I get that, but that's so broad. Like what? Yeah. And that's one of the biggest ones. And a close second to me, and I hope Lewis can back me up on this one, is as far as I know, even with AI and everything, there's no workaround for reading the contract documents and understanding everything. And people often tell me, like, how do I bid a job? And I said the first step is to, go over your contract documents. And that's when I lose a lot of clients. They're like, I just either don't have the time, don't want to, or I'm trying to find a shortcut. But that's another big one I always have. It's another big, how to, teach clients, hey, we need to go over all these documents because, this is what the job is about. There's no cookie cut or anything as far as I know.
No, but there are systems coming online that are extremely useful in responding to solicitations. You still need to massage it a bit, but here's what's going to happen. The more and more people that use these type of products, the more and more responses, these solicitations are going to get. I think there'll be a little bit of a sweet period now where not so many people are using it that they're overwhelmed, but I assure you they're already using AI also, right?
Oh, yeah.
To go through your solicitation. So it's going to become a kind of thing like with your resume, where you look for the keywords that they're looking for, then you add those to your response, as long as you meet the other criteria. I think there'll be a time for a little while where AI will be useful, then a time where it'll be just standard, and then a time where the government will have to adjust to that quite dramatically.
Yeah.
And maybe in that time, the ones who are not using the AI might take that opportunity to rise over because they can, produce something that the AI can't. Maybe, who knows?
Definitely. And then Matt,
it's going to be interesting. I'll tell you that.
And then Matt, it's good you're talking because we're going to talk about the state of Florida contracting. So I know that's like your sweet spot, one of your expertises. So basically, the state of Florida has regular opportunities for goods, equipment, and industrial services. It could be specialized manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, infrastructure. There are some key regulations related to manufacturers where they do give an in-state preference to foreign manufacturing companies that want to locate a factory in Florida. They have over 200 employees. There's also like some tax exemptions you can qualify for related to sales tax on manufacturing equipment that could be integrated into your contract pricing. So we did want to throw something in there specific for manufacturers. Um, but in general, basically, I want to tell you there are opportunities. Basically, My Florida Marketplace is kind of like the key place that you go. That just shows you that there are manufacturing opportunities related to the state of Florida. A lot of them is more like on the services and construction side. But the first place to start is My Florida Marketplace. We did include that up here. And so basically, it's a simple process. Matt, any tips on that? Anything you want to talk about?
Just keep in mind that a lot of registration and CBE certification are not the same. I always get that question a lot. When you register with My Florida Marketplace, you are ready to bid. You don't need to wait for your CBE certification. The process, I guess, when you're registering, it's kind of intertwined. But just because you haven't finished the certification process doesn't mean you're ineligible to bid with the state. A lot of companies don't qualify for certification and they're still bidding. So please don't let that hold you back.
Matt, can you confirm something for me?
Yeah.
From what I understood, Florida doesn't set aside work for those small businesses, but I haven't done it in years, but I did track their spend on small businesses. As a few years ago, it was rising. How is that looking for small business in Florida?
I'm looking like the DBE program's been hit hard. The DBE program, that one's like basically non-existent now. So that I can't see that metric anymore. It's the easiest one to see. But the other certification for state funded projects, the CBE, which is the minority, veteran, or women, or a combination, or they've been getting to their 11%. I think it's 11.25. Don't quote me on that percent goal on subcontracting, but it's only on subcontracting. You're right. They don't do any set asides for for certified businesses, with the only exception being the DOT that has the BDI program, the Business Development Initiative. But that's race gender neutral. It's only for small businesses, but money wise, not capital wise, not it's race gender neutral. So that's the only state set aside that I know of. But in the subcontracting, they're meeting their goals. They're meeting for now. They're meeting their goals.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So let's get into local government contracting. Basically in Florida, there's basically 67 counties. There's 35 cities in Miami-Dade County. Like I said, we know a lot of businesses that could just focus on Miami-Dade County or municipalities here. Also, we cover Monroe County, so I would just say shout out to Monroe. There's also 5 municipalities within Monroe County in addition to Monroe County. In terms of like Miami-Dade, obviously the strategic procurement department, they're kind of like the key place to go where you can look at it in terms of the different areas of or products or services. They do have like their vendor registration. So it's a really good website. I would just mention in terms of them, they also have like different teams that's broken down like a tech team, transit team, operations, aviation, environmental. So they have like different folks, and they also have the contact information where we're talking about like directors, like contracting officers, those type of things where you can get a lot of information on there. Was going to mention about Miami-Dade. There's some good opportunities there. Before I go on, I was going to mention about local contracting. Do you guys want to just talk about like the different platforms you have to do? Because I know you have to get on some of those aggregators, right, Louis?
Real quick, there's no way we're going to get through all of these slides.
Oh, we'll get through. Yeah,
which we'll try. But the Miami-Dade County SBE Small Business Enterprise, Miami-Dade County sets aside 10% for local businesses, and that's great if you're in Miami-Dade County. But now if you're going to be, in Broward County, first of all, you're not going to get their SBE.
Yeah.
But in addition, you're not going to get their local, the local 10% advantage. Miami-Dade County's SBE is valid with Broward and Palm Beach County school systems. That's important. They did that because obviously they don't have enough companies there. So SB is a very powerful certification with Miami-Dade County. In construction, they have several programs, 7360. I think the other ones, I forget the other number, for construction companies really just entering, and they kind of rotate those jobs. Um, yeah.
Louis, let me ask you a question. Is it safe to say that you're kind of pushing it if you have a startup business to try to immediately sell to the government, or if they happen to have some incredible product that's what it would require? I mean, do you ever come across people, you and Matt, where someone says, "Oh, I'm a startup, and what I want to do is sell to the government." Do you have any history? No, I don't have any history. That type of
Just,
thing.
just,
Yeah.
just think about how much work it takes to run even the smallest of companies, right?
Yeah.
And now you're adding, a market with a lot of extra processes. You need to take that into account, employee
Yeah.
wise, revenue wise.
We have had companies that basically were able to get a contract within being in business a couple of months, but basically you do have to have that past performance, industry experience. So actually we're talking about that right here, Ray, is how to
Oh,
find
sorry.
opportunities. So basically, in terms of like narrowing down your opportunities, you want to search by your industry. That would be like your NACE code, your industry code. Then you want to basically refine your search and look at those small business set-asides, different certifications, your geographic area, where you have expertise, past performance, past experience. And then, like we said, looking at forecasts, past awards, like what do they buy, how do they buy, and what amounts, what set-asides, are they hitting their goals, all those type of things. So that is kind of like the secret. In terms of the tools to be successful, obviously we talked about certifications. So those are like basically different certifications based on your background, based on your business. That gives you access to like different trainings, different preferences, networking, technical assistance. And we will send you guys a copy of the slides. So this covers like the federal government certifications and kind of where you can get them. You can also basically check your eligibility on the SBA website.
Brian, I'm sorry, but you go back to that slide, the
Got to
previous.
keep it moving, Ray. Got to keep going. So
No, well,
we want to save time for it.
I just want to make a point that I think,
Mhm.
at least in the onboarding, when I get clients, sometimes they expect, once that they have those certifications, they think they're going to get the government contract.
Yeah, and that's for our center. We do explain just because you get a certification doesn't mean you're going to get the contract. And you actually need to make sure that the certification you get is actually for what the agency is buying. For that. So
Very
that's
good.
a good point. In terms of the county, there are a couple of different certifications at the local level that you can get. In terms of another tool that you have is your capability statement, your CAP statement. That's basically the resume for your business. It's one page, could be front and back, in terms of what specific information you have on there. It can definitely set your business apart from the competition. The capability statement has like your core competencies, your facilities, your expertise, like any information, like your NACE code, your CAGE codes, any certifications, customers, past performance. And then we use both sides if you can use it. I did include up there some really good webinars that you can get more information on how to have a good capability statement. And Lewis, shout out to Apex. I did pull a lot of the Apex stuff. In terms of like your procurement strategies, basically, subcontracting is something that Lewis mentioned. Basically, working with a prime, that's a way for you to get that experience and participate in contracts, especially on the federal government side. Those primes are required to do subcontracting, and their goal, depending on different socioeconomic or geographic considerations. Teaming is where a group of businesses basically team up on a particular project. It basically is a way to like kind of make up for things that you lack, whether that's expertise, technical knowledge, experience on different contracts. You're basically pooling resources to help you make your bid more competitive. And then joint ventures is where you basically would do a joint venture agreement. And it's kind of similar to prime contractor teaming agreements, but it's two or more companies come together to form like a new legal entity. Um, for the past performance, this is very important. Past performance is basically what you've done in the past. A lot of people like to raise point. you're a startup or you've been in business, but you haven't had federal government contracting or local government contracting, you can actually count private sector experience towards that. So this is one of the things that the procurement officials can use to kind of like consider you when they're comparing you against like, tens of businesses, hundreds of businesses. But they definitely want to work with like established, reliable businesses. And they want to show that you have that track record of delivering on time. And your company can basically lean on that private sector commercial sales or your team's management and industry experience. And then we talked about business development tips. So basically, you want to prepare. I'm not going to repeat prepare 5 times, but you basically want to focus on networking, outreach, making connections, um, and you want to kind of focus on those different things. Um, as we said, you want to have those like sources saw it or those previously awarded contracts so that you can basically take those type of things. And I know this is close to Matt's heart, is proposal cost estimating classes or using software because a lot of people don't know how to put together a bid. Shout out to Matt. He has a really good webinar on that, so you can check it out on our YouTube page. And you can definitely develop some of those like matrices, some of those scoring things. That's where you really read the RFP. And then in terms of like what you're going to use on the business development side, it's your cap statement, your elevator pitch, and your business cards. Are the three things. And then Matt talked about the elevator pitch. Is basically, are you ready to describe your business like on the spot? Can you talk about what your business is and kind of be to the point? Um, the big thing is who you are, what do you specialize in, what do you do, and then what's your call to action? Like, what do you want? So a lot of times when I was at an agency or when I worked in the Congress, I'd kind of be like, what is your ask? Like, what do you want? Like, that's
Yeah.
great that you could talk for like 30 to 30 minutes, but what do you want, man? What do you want from me? Like, how can I help you? So you really want to like summarize that kind of stuff in 30 seconds, but anything on the elevator pitch, man?
Yeah, I hear a lot of people like they change the time like 30 seconds, 2 minutes. I've heard them all. And like 30 seconds is like that's what the max you want to shoot for. Like if you don't, and if nobody believes me, try to talk for 2 minutes and see how long that takes.
Yeah.
You,
And you'll see
yeah,
people's
you
eyes
really
glazing
need to.
over. Yeah.
Yeah, the most important thing is always who you are. Most important thing is what you do exactly. Like don't generalize. I know that sometimes you offer other services or anything, and I get that, but you definitely want to tell them exactly what you do, like to the smallest component possible. All right.
Mhm.
If this is a weird example, but if you're a shoemaker and you put the nails in the shoes and tell them I put the nails in the shoes. I mean, you want the last possible thing in the chain to let them know exactly what you're doing. If you do other services other than that, you can explain that later. But right now, you got 20 seconds, 30 seconds to make an impression. Don't make it too long. Make it concise. Maybe
Yeah.
they have something for you, but if you're not communicating right, then they can't really give you an answer.
And don't be a robot. Don't be too
Yeah.
technical. Don't be weird in the delivery. Practice it in front of a mirror. Basically memorize it where you can do it at a moment's notice. But just be ready to do it. And it's good for not just government contracts, but just business in general.
in
It's like,
general.
what do you pitch? What do you do? And then I know we did save it for the end, so I want to be in there on time. But we do have the secret to success. So for all you guys that stuck around, we basically want to talk about it. The secret is, and Louis, you're going to smile at this because you've seen this before, but most firms don't get a DoD contract. They don't get a NASA contract for $30 million right at the bat. They basically go start small, start local, build up that past performance. They take advantage of teaming or subcontracting, but they grow their capacity. Like we talked about to tie it back together, their financial, their HR, their operations, and they work their way up to larger contracts. So, Louis, am I lying? Matt, am I lying?
Perfectly
I don't know.
outlined. Perfectly outlined. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. So that is the secret, but we do have some bonus tips for you. So like we mentioned, basically you don't ever get a second chance to make that first impression. Use your email address affiliated with your website. It does look fishy if it's Yahoo, Gmail, those type of things. Double check for typos in your emails and on your website. As Matt mentioned, don't try to be jack of all trades. These guys see tons of businesses. They can spot it. So if you're selling like you can do all these things, they're gonna basically kind of like turn them off. You want to basically, what is your sweet spot? What is your expertise? What do you lead with? And you want to talk about mitigating risk and overcoming obstacles.
Mhm. Just remember on your I'm going to insist on that. If you're doing something for your house and you need somebody to do the roof, I want a roofer. I don't want somebody who does roofs slash pools slash lawns. I don't want that. I want a roofer. The government thinks the same way.
Yeah. But make sure also like your website is up to date with your projects. There's no typos. You don't have weird things on the website because immediately they'll get your card or they'll get your capability statement. They'll go look up your website and see that there's like things that are off. Attention to detail is important because if you're not paying attention to detail on your website or in your capability statement, then that could lead to what's going on with your project, with your proposals. Also, Lewis talked about like the cone of silence, and different things. So you need to be aware when there's a bid on the street that sometimes it's not appropriate to contact a contracting officer. Generally, like if it's kind of a slow period or in between, that might be a chance for you to talk to them. Um, but just be aware of that cone of silence, like when a bid is out there, and then like Lewis and Matt said, that if you ask a question, it goes to everybody. So you could be giving somebody else a leg up if you're asking like a particular question on something. Like we actually submitted a proposal for like a federal grant and we had like a very targeted question, but I saved it until right at the end. So that way people couldn't like really like update all their stuff. We had built our whole proposal around that particular like angle. So I waited until like the last possible minute so that people couldn't like really pivot. So you got
That's because you read all the documents, Brian.
yeah. So so that is
and I'd like to tell everybody, the code of silence is if you break it, you're not going to get fined. No one's going to come after you, but it does show that you didn't read it shows that you didn't read the schedule in the contract document. So it makes you look like a rookie, it makes you look like you didn't read anything. So it's very important. Inside the contract, there's going to be a schedule of events. The schedule of events will tell you when the cone of silence starts. So just try not to call after that.
Yeah. And then I do want to shout out Apex Accelerator. We have a couple ones. We have basically Matt's Bidding for Success located here. So if you love Matt, you want to hear more about Matt, there you go. We also did one from FDOT that Matt did, government bidding, as we noted, succeeding with anchor procurement. So we have a couple different webinars that are located up there. If you want to basically meet with an SBDC consultant, scan the QR code. Also, Jesus will be very diligent to send you that. We will send you guys a copy of the presentation. So everybody that was able to join, everybody that wasn't able to join, we will send them a copy of the presentation, also the recording as well. This is basically like our SBDC socials. And then I will look and see if there's any questions because I know that we're kind of at the end of the thing. We're a little bit over, but we started 5 minutes late, so we'll give it the 5 minute thing.
I do want to say one thing.
Mhm.
Anybody who's an Apex client or engages with Apex anywhere in the country, ask them about a system called Proxity Bid Match. It's actually federal and SLED aggregator, but we have a bunch of subscriptions that we make available to our clients at no cost. I don't like it for federal. I will continue using SAM, especially with these new upgrades. But for SLED, it's a fantastic resource. Bid Match by Proxity.
Yeah. So I see Jesus is active in the chat. Shout out to Jesus.
Yeah.
But for me, I want to just thank our panelists. Any kind of closing thoughts? Anything you guys want to wrap up on?
I can't believe you got through 80 slides in the time allotted with all of us
There you
talking.
go, man. I've done this before.
Hey, you timed it to the T because we started late. So
Yeah.
Very good.
So, it's not my first rodeo, so I've been through it. But yeah, I just want to thank you guys. Any kind of closing thoughts, Ray? Anything from Eli?
Like
Last
always,
closing thought. I'm sorry to hug up the thing. Don't get discouraged. You're not going to win the first one out the gate. You might, right? But don't get discouraged. It's a numbers game. It really is. At the end of as long as you keep improving your processes.
Correct.
pay attention. Pay attention to your numbers, right?
When you do lose a bid, what you do, because you will, the best strategy is to look at your bid, look at the winning bids, get all the information you can, just find out what your weaknesses were and go from there.
Find out how many other people bid on that is another thing you want to do. If 50 people bid on that, you better want to bid, that specific agency for those specific opportunities. A lot of details go into this.
Yeah. And I will give you in with some hope. We mentioned you're not going to get a DoD or NASA contract right off the bat. One of our clients that we're going to give a feature as an award in our May award ceremony actually worked in the government contracting space for aviation companies. Basically was a military veteran, started his business in November, kind of left like a big government contractor, was able to basically get his first DoD contract within like 2 to 3 months. But shout out to Mirtha. I know Mirtha couldn't be here today. She's one of Mirtha's clients. But he was able to basically get a bunch of government contracts, and they were super small. It was like $5, $10, $50, but he was able to kind of get a lot of them through Defense Logistics Agency. So he was able to get that past performance pretty quick and build up to like larger contracts. And now he's doing probably like about $1 million a year in DoD contracts.
Very good. Excellent.
I do see Juan raised his hand. Juan, if you want to put in the chat or in the Q&A, we can answer your question.
Where'd you go?
Let's see. I don't see him. But yeah, if Juan, we don't get to your question, we can basically follow up with you after the webinar, because I want to be sensitive to our panelists' time. I know they have some other client meetings or some other things in the community, and I just want to thank again our panel. I want to thank Eli and Brickell Capital Finance, his team. I want to thank our SBDC team, our Apex team, and we'll be following up with the presentation and also a copy of the webinar web recording as well. So take care, guys. Have a good day.
Got it.
Thank you all. Have a nice day.
Thanks,
Take care,
Bye,
everyone. Nice to
guys.
see you.
Bye-bye, guys.
Mhm.
Thank you.